When I was a kid, I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically. I know I wanted to do something drawing, artistic. I like to draw. And then I saw I saw the first X-Men comic, and like right then and there, I knew what I wanted to do.
That's Brett Booth. We spoke to him at Long Beach Comic-Con 2016. He's a comic artist who's worked with Marvel and DC, and comics are, to say the least, important to him.
The only way I'd leave the comic industry is if that comic industry didn't exist.
Comics tell stories that are both fantastic and personal, and a passionate community has grown around them. Despite the timelessness of the medium, the comics industry has had a wild ride from the golden age in the 30s to today. So let's talk about comic collecting in the 90s, because, surprise, this video is about economics. Economic bubbles! Let's dive. X-Men was super successful in the early 90s. The franchise was huge, and with the Fox animated series, it spawned all sorts of action figures, crossovers, trading cards, video games, and more. And along with that, first edition comics and comics that debuted superheroes were making news for selling for thousands of dollars, spurring collectors to buy comics and paraphernalia as an investment. The industry leaned into this, leading to tons of quote-unquote collectible limited editions with variant and foil covers. People were buying comics at a high price with the hopes that they'd be worth a lot more money in 20-30 years. But that doesn't make sense. If everybody's collecting it now, it won't be as scarce and therefore valuable in the future. All it takes for a bubble to burst is a collective realization in the market that the thing isn't so great anymore. Because publishers were sitting pretty, comic quality was on the decline despite the higher prices. In the summer of 1993, sales fell to an unexpected low, and the market crashed. Stores had to pull comics from shelves because there were too many copies and nobody was buying. The entire industry had to scale back. Stores closed. Publishers downsized. In 1996, Marvel declared bankruptcy. How did they recover? Let's paint some broad strokes. Marvel and DC found success in movies and TV. The industry mellowed out. Independent publishing grew. The focus on collectability shifted back to a focus on content.
It's basically now it's just like people wanting good stories, and especially DC with Rebirth are starting to really kind of sync with the fans and deliver the stuff that they really want.
In comics right now, DC with their Rebirth event, it's just they're doing amazing right now. The movies are great. Like Marvel's killing it with their movies, and I'm really happy with. Some people don't like the DC movies. I really like the DC movies.
I really enjoy the movies, and I'm happy it's a lot more mainstream now, that I don't feel so weird dressing up anymore.
Hopefully this trend continues. Hopefully the movies will continue to do well. But you never know. Something weird might happen.
It makes you wonder about the future of comics as an industry. There's a lot of hope out there.
I think the conventions itself will be a lot bigger.
And like with new versions like Miles Morales, that tackles like multiculturalism.
Everyone will say they read comics or like comic heroes now.
I feel like there's going to be a lot more DIY comics.
Hopefully we'll be able to at least maintain what we're doing now for a while.
Look, comics are super important to pop culture. But who knew they also provided a neat example of an economic theory? I'm like that much closer to comprehending the US housing crisis. I should watch The Big Short.